we are done with LO2, Alhamdulillah, till lecture number 6. Today we will be starting LO3. I'll be focusing on the main heading and assessment criteria 3.1. For 3.1, all the points are from your indicative content. The rest, it's all discussion. Okay. Understand the use of information and strategic decision making. That is, what is the necessity behind the importance or the significance for using the strategically decision making or the tools and elements which we use. Why it's necessary, why we use it, everything. First, um, information refers to the data that has been processed and organized to be meaningful and useful in the guiding decisions. What it means that the knowledge which you have extracting from wherever the source is, you have further added elements into it, then we add stuff into it, and that way we are getting the processed and refined form of information. Now, in the sense of strategic purpose, we will be discussing relevant. It means directly related to the decision being made. For example, I have to take an assignment class, so I'm going to prepare everything according to it. We are not going to deviate from it. Reliable, accurate, and trustworthy. I will take the data from those websites and from those authentic references, which I know are actually acceptable to and they are not fake. Timely, available when required. That is uploaded on the LMS. Comprehensive, covering all aspects of the issue. That is, whatever the intrigue is required to discuss that matter at that moment, we are going to add everything in it. For example, if the task one requires complete discussion from LO1 and LO2, I'll add that from every aspect, including command web description, indicative content, and suggested evidence. Comprehensive, done with it. Strategic decision making uses information to first, identify the opportunities and threats, both the um, best next opportunity, which is good and valuable for the business, and threats, that is the cognitive parts, dangers, threats, hinders, obstacles which we might face or may face in the future. For that, we always go for contingency plans. Analyze internal strengths and weaknesses of what? Of the organization, of your team, the project. Once you're able to get hands on the strengths and weaknesses, then you can definitely overpower the challenges too. Forecast the future trends and challenges. Again, the contingency plan. If we take this measure, part A, part B, what will be the outcome? We need to think from both perspective, positive and negative. Now, what do we have? We have, here you go, types of information which is used in the strategic decision making. First is obviously the internal information. Okay. Um, Internal operation. Operational data. This means sales figures, production metrics, and financial performance. Now, everything is more into numbers and quantifiable data. Why sales figures are in the operational data? Because it's easy to figure out everything. The production metrics in one batch, how many units we are producing in a day, in a week, in an hour, in certain minutes. And financial performance, that is for all aspects of your statements, from income till the equity. Human resources data, employee performance, attrition rates, and skill sets. First, employee performance. How they are performing, we have certain metrics for it, like KPI, key performance indicator. We rank them and then we award them. That's the employee performance. If they need further motivation, we motivate them. Then attrition rates. What are these? Any idea about it? If you remember, I have used many of the time the word absenteeism rate. Attrition and absenteeism both are the synonyms of each other. It tells us how many employees are leaving the organization in month, year, and so on. In skill sets, clear by the way, attrition. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Skill sets. Skill sets means that those attributes which you possess as an employee in an organization. Like for every project, different department, every employee has specific skills which maybe matches with the other employee, but they are going to be differ in some sense. Like in a class, even some are brilliant, some are average, some are below average, some are neutral. So there's a skill sets going on, but they possess something different with everybody. Organizational culture, insights into leadership styles and workplace dynamics. Leadership styles, again, it varies. Sometimes it's democratic style, sometimes it's autocratic, sometimes it's laissez-faire, centralized, decentralized. Workplace dynamics. The environment of the workplace is actually way too important because it directly impacts the mood of an employee, and it's a factor of motivation too. For example, a retail company analyzing consumer purchase trends from their internal sales database to adjust product offerings. So, what we were actually discussing, the internal information. So, they are going to extract the information of the consumers from inside the data of an organization to get to know that what are actually the sales figure going on. External, I think. Yeah. External information first, we have market trends for it. Again, consumer behavior, competitor strategies, and market demand. Behavior of a consumer is indeed depending directly and proportionally to the sales of products and the production both. Why? Because it all depends on the demand and supply. And it's way too important to know what they are actually wanting from a producer. Competitive strategies. I am a big brand. What my competitors are doing, B, C, D, E, I have to see. Whatever policies they are opting, I have to entreat with it. Market demand. I'm making something way too different. I know it is um, an innovative product, a unique thing in the market, and targeted for the niche target audience. However, I need to say that what is actually the demand of the market too, because I need to survive in the industry. Economic indicators. These are interest rates, inflation, and GDP growth. Interest rate is what? It is directly related to the fascination of the banking system. That is what interest rate is. If we take a loan of like around some kind sort of a quantifiable money, we need to pay interest on it. It is of sometimes 2%, 5%, and so on. Inflation, which is indirectly related to the unemployment rate. When the inflation, that is the living standard of an economy rises, ultimately it means the unemployment is going to get down, and vice versa too. GDP growth, that is gross domestic product, this varies from country to country. That is what is your rate of production, of import and export, and other factors too. Developing nations obviously have it in negative and sometimes way too low, maximum 6%, but the nations who are developed, they have high ratios of it, above 200 and 502. Regulatory changes, again, it is going to be about laws and regulations, compliance requirements, and legal shifts according to government and agency bodies. For example, an IT company monitoring technological advancements to decide on the research and development investments. Because directly or indirectly, we are linked with so much with the AI and tech. So we need to adjust the investments ratios too when we are in the research and development department or even other departments. But R&D is at the top. Then we have qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative is all about quality, which is including the opinions, perceptions, and expert insights. What are your thoughts, observations, judgment? It all includes in it. Gathered through interviews, focus groups, or surveys. By asking questions from individuals or group, focus groups certain people of a certain age, surveys which are randomly distributed. For example, consumer feedback collected to improve a product's features. We have launched a perfume, now we want further upgradation in it. So we will be sending survey, maybe we will be calling through different phone calls or emails. Quantitative, that numbers. Numerical data, such as sales volume. What was the ratio of sales in the month of December? And we can compare that with the last year to just set the trend analysis. Profit margins. What are the ratios of net profit, ROC, or growth rates, whether we have improved or not? For example, financial data to assess the feasibility of expanding into new market. Do you have enough reserves at the back so that you can conglomerate or you can diversify or you can at least do acquisition or merger? You need money for it. That is a finance. For example, Amazon's data driven decision. It uses massive amounts of data from its consumer transactions to do what? To personalize user recommendations, whatever you like, you're going to see the offers, coupons, discount codes accordingly. Optimize supply chain logistics, all about the relation from the extraction of raw material to interest to the consumer. Introduce new services like Prime and AWS according to the um, demand of the consumer. This reliance on the high quality information supports Amazon's strategic goals because somehow it's a giant going on right now of the e-global commerce, such as consumer retention, market leadership. They have retained the market, retained the consumers too. People opt for the other brands like e-brands, but they are more onto the Amazon. Like I've recently heard that TikTok itself has opened a TikTok shop, but mostly people are relying on Amazon. I hope LO3 main heading is clear to everyone, and I can discuss now the AC 3.1 with using
Yes.
all the points from indicative content.
Okay.
All right. And it says explain. Here, the command word is explain. We're going to focus on that, and explain is all about everything in detail from A till Z and a general pattern in definition, main body text, and a conclusion. Now, what we are going to explain, we are going to explain the legal, regulatory, organizational, and ethical guidelines used to validate information gathered for strategic decision making because it's easy to extract knowledge, but to commend the information, that is actually the trickiest part. Sometimes the information can be vague, it can be authentic. And for that, there are certain steps through which we go to rectify and check the validity of the information so that we can make the decision smoothly. Effective strategic decision making requires that information gathered is valid, reliable, and aligned with specific guidelines to ensure legal compliance, ethical practices, and organizational integrity. Why we're more focusing always on the strategic decision making because somehow it is totally depending on each and every aspect department of the organization. It helps you to legalize everything, to be more culturally acceptable, being ethical too, and to save the integrities too. And the first point from your indicative content for the legal guidelines is Data Protection Act 2018. The UK's implementation of the General Data Protection Regulation GDPR provides a framework for how the personal data should be processed, stored, and shared. Now, what it means that your personal data is being saved and it is being processed, like the way we get our national identity card, passports, and everything. You give the information, it is saved in the system, and it is with the governmental bodies. What's the key principle for this act? First, lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. That's all opaqueness. Information must be collected legally, fairly, and maybe you guys, let me see. Okay. Information must be collected legally, fairly, and with clear communication about its use. When we are going to extract the information, for example, for a criminal record, we need to see why we're using it. Whether it's for the safe purpose or we're using it for the just extraction of the data because in the black market, the dark web, the data is sold to. I've recently heard news in Pakistan that the national identity card, our CNICs, they're being sold. Their copies are being sold by the bank to different people, and that is why people are getting scum and there is so much loss going on. And it's true. Purpose limitation. Data should only be used for the purposes explicitly stated at the time of collection. That is, when it is required, it should be given only then. Like generally, people when we go to shop in different markets, grocery store, they ask for your numbers. Do not give it randomly. Just go for the emails. Data minimization. Only the necessary amount of the data should be gathered to meet the decision making needs. In the organization, too, from the aspect, um, if it is required for the legal purpose, only that information should be given to them. Do not brag about everything. Accuracy. Data must be accurate and kept up to date. That is, updating your system. It should not be manual till date. Still, in many of the reigns, the data is collected manually. Storage limitation. Information should not be retained longer than necessary for its intended use. Like if you had installed a CRM system in the organization, the data is going to keep up for the 5 years, not more than that. Although you are going to have a record at behind, but again, for the system, it's a load. Integrity and confidentiality. Safeguards must be in place to ensure the data is secured and protected from unauthorized access that is being hacked. It's quite common nowadays. So it's our responsibility to have secure passwords and systems installed in the organizations and the governmental hub too. For example, a UK retailer collecting consumer feedback must ensure data is anonymized, used only for improving services, and stored securely to prevent breaches. The one which I just gave example above as well. Be very clear about it. Even as a shopkeeper, as an owner, if you work in any bakery, store, somewhere else, you need to be way too confident that if you're giving them the number, if you're giving them the details, be secure about it. Sometimes people fake as well, like they fake it. In GDPR, General Protection Data Protection Regulation, this is a comprehensive data protection regulation applicable across the European Union that aims to protect individuals' personal information. Your indeed, your whatever the address, age, uh, your properties, um, your being filer, everything is recorded here in the UK because your degree is about that ATHE form. Additional requirements. What do we need for it? That individuals have the right to assess, correct, and delete their data. Delete the data in Pakistan is not possible. However, we can just correct it. Like many on the Bay farms, the parents mistakenly go for wrong dates. And that's literally a big cause on the um, passports and immigration time because the visas get rejected. Accountability. Organizations may demonstrate compliance through proper documentation and appointment of the data protection officers, DPOs. Why? Because it is a proper channel. Everything should be done on a proper way, in a proper format, in proper guides. Because referencing is going on nowadays. Recently, in Pakistan, and I think in Islamabad, a blind person got a driving license. First, I was shocked. Then I don't know how it happened, and then it was revealed it was due to the referencing. Penalties for the breach. Non-compliance can result in severe financial penalties, up to 20 euro million for 4% of the global turnover. That is for GDPs. That's a lot. But it does happen because I think what it's called New World Order, which is going on by the Israel. For example, a multinational IT company using consumer data for analytics must ensure compliance with GDPR to avoid penalties. That is, if they're extracting the information of the users or the locals, public, general public, they should know why they're doing it. They should have a proper official grounds for it and records too. Otherwise, a person can sue them, the authorities and organization both. Then we have regulatory guides, transparency standards. Regulators often require transparency in the collection and use of information to prevent misrepresentation or fraud. That is, be loyal and tranquilent at the same time. Do not misinterpret with information. For example, financial firms providing market analysis must clearly disclose the data sources and methodologies used. You were able to perform excellently from the past 5 years, and you have given the income statement publicly, balance sheet, equity, positions, and everything. How did you achieve it? You need to show that as well. That is the working. And then we will know that where the black thing has been or everything was smooth beforehand. Industry specific regulations. Some industries, such as healthcare or finance, have stricter data management rules. That is, every department, industries, market, channels have their own laws and regulations which needs to be followed. For example, hospitals in the UK must comply with the Health and Social Care Act to ensure patient data is handled ethically and legally, and it's way too strict. Whether you go for general repo or in the NHS too, the record is quite hard to fetch and even to give them if you are even an immigrant. Organizational guidelines, internal policies and procedures. Are you getting the lecture?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Internal policies and procedures. Organizations often establish policies that align with the legal and regulatory requirements, ensuring a standardized approach to data validation. Why it is requiring a data validation at a standardized format or at a level? Because somehow these legal informations, these are quite technical sometimes, but it is necessary as well if we are working or we want to extract something internally from the organizations. Like a corporation may mandate that all the consumers' data used for strategic analysis be vetted by its legal team to ensure compliance. Once they get the data from the authentic source, they mark that what were the trend analysis of the sales and everything, the market likes and dislikes, they need to delete it or they need to like somehow save it somewhere with the very secure passwords and everything in the systems. Because if somebody's thing leaks out or there is a breach somehow or a hacked system going on, then a person can sue another organization or even a department. Best practices. For this, we have periodic audits. This is regular reviews of the data accuracy and relevance. That is checking again and again every month. Audit and balance, check and balance. Training programs, educating employees about ethical data handling and the compliance requirements. That is giving them the training and workshops. That's very necessary because they're handling such niche and private things of the people and the consumers. They need to be very much reluctant about it. Data governance frameworks, like we people used to get in times, I think in before 2018, a lot of black calls and wrong calls all the time. It is how the data sorts out. Establishing roles, for example, data stewards to oversee the quality and legality of the information, that is to say the authenticity and the quality of the information at which stands it lies. Grade 2. Ethical guidelines. Key ethical principles, confidentiality, the first one, safeguarding the sensitive information. If you think that this information is quite sensitive, it can breach. If it breaches, it can cause a chaos. Save it beforehand. Why to have a problem at the end? Informed consent, ensuring individuals understand and agree to the use of their data. When we are taking the data, we are having the personal information with us. It is our right to ask from them that it is going to be private. We're not going to be confidential. We're not going to misuse it or something like that, like the one when we are taking the surveys. Your names are not going to be at the discussion panel. Avoiding biasness or bias, ensuring the data collection analysis are impartial and unbiased. It is not biased on your favoritism or your likes and dislikes. It should be generally acceptable with everyone. Transparency, being opaqueness, clearly communicating how data will be used. Like when the data is being collected, you need to tell them clearly why you're getting it. Ethical dilemmas, that is, the decisions, misuse of information, such as selling the consumer data without the consent, can harm the stakeholders and damage reputations. Because directly or indirectly, you are damaging the goodwill of your own organization, your country, your team. And these people are blacklisted too, somehow, if the agencies are strong. For example, Facebook's Cambridge Analytica scandal highlights the one which was in 2018. A large amount of chunk of data was sold out in the black market. The importance of ethical data handling to avoid misuse and public backlash. That is why people ban, like, stop using the Facebook and they move to Instagram and Snapchat. And what we had that time? Viber. Yes, Viber. It was an app. I don't know whether it exists now or not, but we used to make calls and texting. It was very easy and interesting to use at that time. And Twitter as well. Practical applications and examples: Amazon uses the consumer data for personalized recommendations but ensures compliance with the GDPR and ethical guidelines to maintain trust. So, what they're using in reality, though, Amazon is a big e-commerce giant, but what they are more into, they are with the data. They are using the data of the organizations, sellers, consumers, everybody is involved in it, but they are using the ethical guidelines. Everything is according to the regulatory framework. Google implements strict data validation and minimization policies to comply with the GDPR while innovating the AI and analytics. AI itself is quite dangerous, but what they're doing in this, again, they are under the rules and regulations. Healthcare organizations, hospitals must validate patient data against ethical standards, ensuring accuracy for the medical decisions while adhering to the confidentiality laws. Like sometimes it's important to discuss your matter with the discussion panels and the head of the department and different surgeons around the globe. It's important. Like if you have a chunk of autistic child or a patient who is facing a brain tumor, we need to discuss that case with the other surgeons too for some reason, but it is going to be confidential. We're not going to name XYZ. We will be discussing it. So that's acceptable in the healthcare departments. Strengths and weaknesses. It ensures legal compliance, that is reducing the risk of fines and reputational damage, because already we know that we are working under a confined rules and regulations, so we are not going to be afraid of penalties. Then ethical data handling builds stakeholder confidence. When you are doing everything according to ethics, culturally viable, definitely the booster of the confidence gets boost up of the stakeholders too, because they're going to have high rank in the stock market too and among the competitors as well. Improves data quality validation processes, ensures accuracy and reliability, that is due to a frequent check and balance auditing. Weaknesses, however, resource intensive because it complies with the significant investment in training and technology. Investment because the softwares, the systems are way too expensive. It's not easy to apprehend everything. Training, giving the workshops, different training sessions to the workers and employees, newbies and the old ones. Technology upgrading every asset and machinery from time to time. Complexity. Navigating multiple legal and regulatory frameworks can be challenging because it's not easy. In an organization, you need to hire different skills people with a different expertise so that they can pursue with the proper set of systems. Similarities and differences. All guidelines aim to protect individual rights, ensure data integrity, and promote responsible usage. Whatever system you use, whatever GDPR acts you use, 2018 to whatsoever, they are always into the individual rights and the community rights. However, legal and regulatory frameworks focus on compliance, that is, laws and regulation, while ethical and organizational guidelines emphasize moral obligations and internal governance. Moral obligation that stands at your likes, observations, judgments, and internal governance, the internal participation of the employees, management, stakeholders, and everyone who is internally involved in it. Concluding, organizations must integrate legal, regulatory, ethical, and organizational guidelines into their data management practices. To make sure everything goes fine, we need to integrate these in it. While this can be resource intensive, expensive, the long term benefits of the compliance, law, trust building, brand reputation, and enhanced decision making for the outweigh the challenges. And it actually makes it outweigh. Why? Because when you're spending a lot, definitely one day you will be getting the fruit of it. Adopting the robust validation frameworks ensures that strategic decisions are based on accurate, authentic, reliable, and ethically sourced information, enabling sustainable growth and a competitive edge. When you're extracting the source of knowledge and information from the correct websites, correct sources, from the uh, properly defined initiates, then definitely you're going to be sustained in the department, in the industry for prolonged period. And you're going to have something different, unique, in a benchmark as well. That's it. These are the references. Any questions, any query, you can discuss right now.
No, ma'am, not now.